United States, the town of Sainte Marie du Mont. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to the dedication of the United States Navy Normandy D-Day Monument. We are here to thank and pay tribute to all the men of the United States Navy who gave or risked their lives for our freedom in the Battle of Normandy. We especially honor those who traveled around the globe to be in attendance today. These brave men sitting in the front row were right over that dune or walking on this very soil on the morning of June 6, 1944, and we are honored to have them here among us today. 8 ships were sunk and 1,068 sailors gave their all that day, roughly 1/5 of all United States casualties on June 6, 1944. We could not believe that our Navy was not recognized for its contribution to that historic event. The Naval Order of the United States undertook the challenge to correct that oversight, and the culmination of that effort is what brings us here today.
We are blessed to be here today to dedicate the United States Normandy D-Day Monument and to honor the 1,068 United States naval sailors and Coast Guardsmen who paid the ultimate sacrifice on June 1944 to help begin the return of liberty to Western Europe. The Naval Order of the United States, founded July 4th, 1890, is the oldest American naval society with a charter to preserve, promote, and celebrate American sea service history and heritage. 5 years ago, we learned that among all the armed forces of France's allies that fought here, the United States Navy alone had no tribute on the beaches of Normandy. Shared traditions of leadership in America's sea services, our Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine Corps, meant that we must recognize the required action to be taken, and we responded rapidly. The Naval Order resolved to act, and we are honored to have organized and funded, through private donations only, this monument. At long last, it will be a fitting tribute to the service and sacrifice of the United States Navy at Normandy. I am honored to recognize Mr. James Graff, a Normandy veteran and the honorary chairman of the Navy D-Day project. At the age of 18, he was here on D-Day driving an LCVP. He made some 30 round trips that day from his mother's ship to Utah Beach. Stephen Spears, our sculptor, whose magnificent design you will soon see in its rightful place, he worked tirelessly with an artist's love for his work and is truly to be commended. Earlier this month, Mr. Spears and the monument installation team sealed a time capsule in the base of the monument. It contains historical articles and documents about the Naval Order and its work in seeing this monument dedicated.
At this time, Admiral Pierre-François Forissier, Chief of Staff of the French Navy, will come forward to present the awards.
Et en vertu des pouvoirs qui nous sont conférés, nous vous faisons chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. Au nom du Président de la République française et en vertu des pouvoirs qui nous sont conférés, nous vous faisons chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. Au nom du Président de la République française et en vertu des pouvoirs qui nous sont conférés, nous vous faisons chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. Fermez le banc.
The actions of the air and ground forces were recounted and explained, but until now, no monument had paid tribute to the sailors and more particularly to the U.S. Navy. Thank you, dear American friends, for taking the initiative in honoring the memory of your ancestors by erecting this monument dedicated to the American Navy on these dunes. It is a very small contribution that our town of Saint-Marie-du-Mont makes to you by putting to your disposal the necessary land and the developments of the environment. Then we will watch over this monument. Today, dear friends and Navy veterans, your action is honored, and in our large plan for extension and modernization of our museum, your history will be related and explained in the same way as the history of the air and ground forces. Dear friends and veterans, I didn't experience this period, but I am the same age as your children, and every day I further realize the greatness of your commitment.
As many of you have already noted, this is indeed a special occasion. For the first time in nearly 65 years, the men and women of the United States Navy will be recognized for their significant contributions to the Allied invasion of Normandy. Their efforts played a crucial role in the Allied success in World War II and consequently in the freedom we enjoy and cherish today. That freedom came at a high price. French, American, and Allied men and women paid the ultimate price, that of their lives, so that we could be here today. It is only fitting that we honor them for their service. Even today, France and the U.S. and our allies continue to defend our freedom. We are partners throughout the world in places like Afghanistan and Kosovo, and many other places around the world where the great tree of liberty is just now taking root. Our navies in particular work together to combat terrorism and piracy and to protect valuable energy resources throughout the world. The expansion and defense of freedom will continue to bind us together far into the future. As I conclude, I would like to thank the Naval Order of the United States, Mr. and Mrs. Ray Pfeiffer, and our distinguished sculptor, Mr. Stephen Spears, for their dedication and work ensuring the United States Navy has a fitting tribute here on Utah Beach. Additionally, this event would not have been possible without the efforts of the men and women of the United States European Command, U.S. Naval Forces Europe, and the USS The Sullivans.
Let me add my congratulations to the Naval Order of the United States for spearheading the effort to establish this magnificent tribute to the brave heroes of our naval forces. It's a great honor and special privilege to be part of this most special occasion at this most hallowed place. Throughout history, brave men in decisive battles have changed the course of civilization. The same can be said of the men who fought here on D-Day 64 years ago. They too were part of something profound and historic. On that cold June morning, along the string of beaches behind me, the brave young men of the Allied Expeditionary Force engaged in one of the most decisive military battles in history. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill called it the most difficult and complicated operation ever to take place. And none of it would have been possible without the support of Allied naval forces, which comprise the largest naval armada ever assembled. Nearly 200,000 men were transported to the shores of France by Allied ships and other craft, including the Higgins boats, which were so crucial to the success at Normandy. All day, against heavy enemy resistance, naval forces bravely carried a steady stream of men, supplies, and ammunition to the beaches, returning each time with the wounded and the bodies of the dead. The successful invasion of the heavily fortified beaches and cliffs was only possible with the massive fire support provided by the amphibious fleet assembled just offshore. History will certainly record, and the world will long remember, the many contributions and sacrifices made by naval forces that day. The invasion was an unimaginable undertaking, and what makes it even more incredible is the realization that many of the young men were only 18 or 19 years old. They were new to the service, and most had never experienced even a moment of combat before that day at Normandy. Now suddenly, they were part of the most complex and consequential amphibious operation in history. The channel water was cold and littered with bodies. Men were crammed together in small transport craft headed towards the beaches. Yet somehow, in the midst of this chaos and carnage, each of them bravely did his duty. They were all heroes. But more importantly, along the beaches, they were a team. They were Americans, Canadians, French, Brits, and other allies, sailors, soldiers. They came from different backgrounds and faiths, but on this day, they were all brothers. The brave men who fought and died here on D-Day taught us all a profound lesson by their examples of courage and sacrifice. The lesson is that freedom must be fought for and defended by every generation. As President Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. God bless all those who serve the cause of freedom, and especially those standing to watch today in harm's way. Vive la France, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with honor and deep respect that the Naval Order of the United States dedicates this Navy D-Day Normandy monument. Please unveil the monument. This monument finally stands in lasting tribute to those members of the United States Navy who fought and died in the greatest amphibious operation in history. You have given honor to their service and to their memory by your presence here today.
It's an honor to be here with you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I thank you very much for doing them a great honor in this beautiful,
It's my pleasure, ma'am. It's an honor for me. It truly is an honor, and
I'm sure it is. But to be able to do something that wonderful and to stand as a tribute forever to these people, the world will never, ever, ever be able to pay it back.